Hello my hero, have a nice viewing dear. If you like the story, please like it and write your opinion in the comments, please please please.
She was my wife. He was my colleague. They thought I was blind. But I was just watching. In corporate life, you learn early that perception is everything. What people see becomes more important than what's real. And my wife, Ava, was a master of perception. To the outside world, we were the perfect couple. Two rising stars at one of the top fintech firms in the city. We met during an internal project, sealed the deal over sushi, and married 18 months later. Power couple. Strategy and marketing. People used to joke that our wedding should have been sponsored by the company. But power makes people hungry. And sometimes, loyalty becomes optional. The first crack came during a product launch. I was swamped, 40-hour sprints, back-to-back client calls, no sleep. Ava, meanwhile, was coordinating with the product team. Lots of late meetings. Strategy dinners. Creative alignment, as she called it. I trusted her. Until I stopped. It wasn't one big red flag. It was static. Subtle signals. She started guarding her phone like it was state property. Changed her passcode. Started locking the bathroom door when she showered, which, strangely, became longer and more frequent. And then there was Marcus. Marcus Tillman. Product-led. Technically brilliant. Socially insufferable. The kind of guy who said, "Let's circle back," 3 times in one sentence. Ava used to roll her eyes when I mentioned him. Then, suddenly, he was brilliant, misunderstood, and pushed too hard by management. And then came the off-site in Austin. 3 days. Cross-departmental workshops. I couldn't go. I was presenting to investors that week. Ava said she'd FaceTime every night. She didn't. Just one short text each evening. Long day. Love you. When she came back, she brought souvenirs. A coffee mug. Branded socks. And silence. The kind where your gut starts to whisper before your brain has the courage to listen. I didn't ask questions. Not yet. Because while they were building trust with each other, I was building evidence. One message. That's all it took. They thought I wouldn't see it. But it wasn't even meant for me. A week after the off-site in Austin, I started noticing patterns. Ava was always on her phone, but never when I walked into the room. She'd smile, set it down face down, and ask me about my day in a tone so forced it sounded like she was reading from a script. Her laptop, once our shared space for Netflix and online shopping, became hers alone. Password protected. Always closed. Even in sleep mode. I wasn't the jealous type. I never had to be. But suspicion isn't jealousy, it's logic wrapped in silence. Then came the message. It was a Friday night. She was in the kitchen, opening a bottle of wine. Her phone was on the couch next to me, screen up for once. A notification blinked on. Marcus Teams DM. Tonight? Followed by a wink emoji. I stared at it. Not shocked. Just numb. I didn't open it. Didn't say a word. She came in with 2 glasses. Sat beside me. Kissed my cheek. I smiled. Toasted. Drank. But inside something shifted. The version of me she thought she could manipulate? He died in that moment. On Monday, I went back to the office with a new mission. I wasn't just going to catch them. I was going to study them. Marcus was, of course, himself, smug, overconfident, bouncing between meetings and pretending to be overworked. The guy had a reputation for pushing boundaries, with interns, with female staff, even with clients. No one had proof, though. Just stories. I started watching. Quietly. I booked a conference room next to his for my team check-ins. I adjusted my lunch break. Made myself visible. Approachable. And that's when it happened. James, one of our junior analysts, pulled me aside during a fire drill. "Hey, I'm Ethan," he said. "Weird question. Was Ava in Austin? I nodded. Yeah. Why? He hesitated. I was on that offsite too. I could have sworn I saw her leaving Marcus's hotel room one morning. I didn't flinch. Just tilted my head. Really? He nodded. I wasn't sure if I should say anything. I know you guys are, like, married. I smiled. Thanks for telling me. He looked nervous. You okay? I'm fine, I said. Because I was. I finally had my first witness. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I scheduled a meeting with HR. Not as a husband, as a professional. The Monday after James mentioned the hotel hallway, I called in a favor. Mira, she works in HR, smart. Quiet. We'd collaborated before on culture audits. She respected me. And more importantly, she owed me. I messaged her casually. Hey Mira, quick question, you got a few minutes sometime this week? She replied in seconds. Of course. Everything okay? Yeah, nothing urgent. Just something I'd rather say off email. I walked into her office on Wednesday morning. Neutral. Calm. Dressed in navy. The kind of color you wear when you want to look serious, but not vengeful. She smiled. So, what's up? I leaned forward. Quiet voice. Measured tone. I want to report a potential issue. Nothing formal, yet. Just off the record. Her smile faded. She sat up straighter. Okay. I gave her a controlled version. I've observed a pattern between two employees. Repeated private meetings. Off-hours interactions. Excessive one-on-ones. Potential misuse of travel budgets. I didn't name names. Not yet. Just enough. Enough to trigger her training. You think there's something inappropriate? I nodded. Not sure. But it's affecting productivity. Morale. And if it escalates, exposure. She started typing. Can you give me initials? I looked at her. M. She froze. Her fingers paused mid-keystroke. Mira wasn't stupid. She knew. And now? There was a record. The next day, I started Phase 2, isolation. I began subtly distancing Ava from her usual allies in the office. Planted quiet comments in meetings like, we should make sure there's no conflict of interest here. Or, marketing's insights seem unusually aligned with product lately. I knew how this place worked. Doubt spreads faster than truth. One by one, colleagues started second-guessing Ava's suggestions. Pushing back on her timelines. Side-eyeing her proximity to Marcus during brainstorms. And Marcus? He was too arrogant to notice. He thought he was untouchable. That made him sloppy. Perfect. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I just let the facts speak, one file at a time. Friday morning, 8:42 a.m. I slipped a small, unlabeled envelope into the internal mail bin outside HR. Inside? A branded USB drive. Company issued. Registered to no one. Contents. Screenshots of suspicious Teams messages between MT and AM. Expense report overlap from the Austin offsite. Time log showing Ava and Marcus accessing the same locked conference room, after hours. And the crown jewel. Security camera stills from our parking garage. Marcus and Ava. Together. Too close. One hand on the other's back. No professional space between them. Not explicit. Not illegal. But suggestive. Damning. Enough. By noon, Mira messaged me. Are you available at 2 p.m.? Just need to follow up. I replied. Of course. I walked in like it was just another compliance touch base. Mira closed the blinds. We received an anonymous packet. I raised my eyebrows. Oh? She looked at me. Straight-faced. It names 2 employees who were mentioned during our conversation earlier this week. I leaned forward. I see. We're escalating to corporate ethics. Legal will determine if there's a breach of policy. I nodded. Let me know if I can assist. I left the office calm. But inside? It had begun. That weekend Ava was off. Distracted. Checking her phone constantly. Snapping at nothing. Something wrong? I asked, stirring my coffee. She forced a smile. Just a weird week. I nodded. Yeah. A lot of strange things happening. She tilted her head. What do you mean? I met her eyes. Just for a second longer than usual. Then I sipped. And said nothing. On Monday, Marcus didn't show up to the morning stand-up. Someone asked why. HR pulled him for something, said a product team assistant. An hour later he was still gone. By 3 p.m., his Slack account had been deactivated. No announcement. No goodbye message. Just gone. She came home early that day. But not because she missed me. Because HR had questions, and she didn't have answers. Tuesday. 4:37 p.m. I heard her keys jingle long before the door opened. She walked in fast, coat half-buttoned, heels in her hand, face pale under foundation. I was on the couch, laptop open, pretending to work. She looked at me like she wasn't sure if I already knew. Hey, she said quietly. Hey, I replied. You're home early. She nodded. Her eyes flicked away. I wasn't feeling well. She walked past me into the kitchen. I heard the wine bottle open. She didn't even bother with a glass. The truth? I already knew what happened. She'd been called into HR that morning. Not a formal complaint, not yet. They framed it as clarification. A routine inquiry. But she knew. Mira had forwarded me the timeline. 10:15 a.m., Ava entered the HR office. 11:02, she left. That's 47 minutes. Long enough to shake her. The next day, things escalated. Ava started texting me at work like everything was normal. Want to do dinner tonight? Miss you. It was desperate. Clingy. Wrong. The shift was subtle, but clear. She could feel the ground giving out under her heels. And then came the corporate whisper. My manager, Alex, pulled me aside midweek. Hey, just between us, is everything okay with Ava? I tilted my head. What do you mean? He shrugged. Let's just say, the rumor mill's heating up. Marcus is gone. And HR's been asking questions about the Austin trip. I gave him a neutral look. She hasn't said anything. He nodded. If you need time off, I can make that happen. I almost laughed. Time off? I was just getting started. That Friday, a company-wide calendar invite went out. Subject: Year-end celebration town hall plus awards plus open bar. Location: 35th floor atrium. Date: December 8th, 6 p.m. Attire: business formal. And just like that, the perfect setting appeared. Public. Celebratory. And packed with every VP, manager, and employee Ava thought still respected her. I RSVP'd instantly. So did she. She even messaged me. Let's go together. Start fresh. We deserve one good night. I stared at the message. Smiled. Sure. One last good night. She got dressed for celebration. I got dressed for war. December 8th, 6:02 p.m. The 35th floor atrium glowed with soft gold light. Crystal glasses clinked. Jazz hummed through the air. The year-end gala looked like something out of a corporate dream. Everyone was dressed sharp, floor-length gowns, tailored tuxes, holiday red lipstick, and too much cologne. And Ava? She looked stunning. She wore a dark green silk dress. The same one she wore in Austin. I watched her pose for photos with coworkers who pretended they didn't know. I sipped whiskey from a lowball glass and nodded at every VP that passed me by. No one suspected what I had in my pocket. A simple USB drive. No label. No logo. Just justice. At 7:40 p.m., the company's COO stepped onto the small stage. He tapped the mic. The room quieted. Before we start our awards, we're going to show a short highlight reel. It's been a long year, but we made it through stronger than ever. Here's to teamwork, to transparency, and to trust. The projector hummed to life. A corporate montage began. Smiles, laptops, drone shots of the building. People laughed, clapped, and then, a flicker. The screen glitched. Static. Just for a second. Then, "Hey babe, you left your watch in my bag again," face-blowing kiss. It was a screenshot. A real one. From Ava. To Marcus. Dated 2 weeks before the offsite. Another image followed. A room service receipt. Same suite, same night, double occupancy. The room fell into a stunned, gasping silence. One woman put a hand over her mouth. Someone whispered, "Oh my God!" I glanced at Ava. She wasn't blinking. Her smile evaporated. Her hands trembled. She looked at the screen like it was a ghost pulling her soul out in front of 200 people. More flashes. A conference room schedule showing after-hours bookings. An anonymous witness quote. "I saw them kissing in the garage. He had his hand up her blouse." An internal Slack chat between Marcus and another product lead. "Pretty sure Ava's husband has no idea. Poor guy." Then, cut to black. White text on screen. "This is what happens when transparency is just a buzzword. Happy holidays." Dead silence. Then someone laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was done. Ava turned to me, white as printer paper. "You did this?" I stared right at her. "No, Ava. You did this. I just let everyone see it." She ran out of the room. And no one followed. She thought she still had time to explain. But her time ran out the moment that screen lit up. The Monday after the gala was quiet. Too quiet. No company-wide email. No direct response. Just silence. But in corporate culture, silence isn't peace. It's the sound of lawyers circling. Ava didn't go to work. Not that she could have. Her badge was deactivated that morning. She called in personal leave. Translation: she was advised not to show her face until HR processed the incident. I knew this because Mira texted me a single sentence. "It's happening today. You didn't hear it from me." At 2:17 p.m., Ava finally broke. She called. Voice shaking. "They're investigating me. They think I leaked confidential information." I didn't answer right away. I let her sit in it. "They said there's a formal complaint. That I violated policy. Do you know anything about this?" I responded slowly. "I know everything about it." Silence. "Ethan, please. This is my career. My life." "No, Ava. This was our life. You turned it into a joke with Marcus in a hotel room. You're punishing me." "No," I said. "They're punishing you. I'm just watching." She tried damage control. She emailed HR a clarifying statement, saying the messages were taken out of context and did not impact her professional judgment. She offered to step down voluntarily from her leadership role in exchange for keeping her job. But it was too late. The moment that screen lit up at the gala, the board was already writing the ending. And then came the meeting. Friday, 11 a.m. She was escorted to conference room B. An HR rep, someone from legal. One witness. She was asked to resign or face formal termination, pending breach of professional ethics. She resigned. Her exit was quiet. No email. No goodbye cake. No, thank you for your service. She left through the parking garage. No one waved. I got the text at 1:44 p.m. "She's gone. Just FYI. Mira." I didn't reply. Because I already knew what came next. She thought she lost her job. But what she really lost was the version of me that ever loved her. She showed up at my office. Not at home. At work. It was 3 days after her resignation. I was coming back from lunch when I saw her, standing near the reception desk in a beige coat, clutching a manila envelope like it held her last piece of dignity. We hadn't spoken since the phone call. She looked thinner, pale, tired. The silk, the heels, the perfect hair, gone. Just raw nerves in a coat that didn't fit her mood anymore. "I need to talk," she said. I paused. Looked around. People were watching. Pretending not to. "I have 5 minutes." She followed me into the side conference room. "Didn't sit. I know what I did was wrong," she said, voice shaky. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to see that I lost everything. Marcus is gone. My job is gone. My reputation." I didn't speak. She handed me the envelope. "What's this?" "My resignation letter, and a note. For you." I opened it. Read the first few lines. "I don't expect redemption. I just hope someday you remember me for more than what I became." She stood there, eyes glassy. "You didn't have to destroy me like that," she whispered. That's when I finally spoke. "I didn't destroy you, Ava. I just showed everyone who you were while you thought no one was watching." She bit her lip. Looked down. "I miss you," she said. I nodded slowly. "I miss the person I thought you were." She winced like it physically hurt. I walked to the door and opened it. "That version of me you betrayed? The one who trusted you without question? He's gone." And then I said something she never expected to hear. "And I don't hate you. I just don't need you anymore." She walked out. No final hug. No tears. No second look. Just silence. And honestly, that was enough. I didn't just recover. I evolved. 3 weeks after Ava walked out of that conference room, I moved into a new apartment. Nothing dramatic. Just clean space. White walls. Wood floors. No shared drawers. No forgotten perfume bottles. No ghosts. Max, the doorman, nodded when I passed. "Fresh start?" I smiled. "Something like that. At work, things got quieter but better. I wasn't just Ethan from Strategy anymore. People respected me in a new way. Not because I was feared, but because I stood my ground with dignity." Mira pulled me aside one afternoon and said, "You know, I've never seen someone handle betrayal like that. No chaos. No meltdown. Just results." I thanked her. But inside? I was still healing. Not from Ava. From the version of me who thought loyalty guaranteed love. I started journaling again. Something I hadn't done since college. It helped. I took long walks without music. Sat in coffee shops alone and liked it. I reconnected with people I'd pushed aside. My sister, my college roommate, an old coworker I once considered a best friend. None of them said, "I told you so." They just said, "Welcome back." One Friday evening, I stayed late at the office. The cleaning crew passed by. Lights dimmed. As I gathered my things, I heard a knock on the glass. A woman I'd seen in finance, Grace. We'd crossed paths before. Brief hellos. She smiled, a little shy. "You're Ethan, right?" I nodded. She held up a folder. "You left this in the printer." She handed it over, then paused. "I liked what you said during the ethics panel last week. About boundaries." I nodded. "Thanks." She hesitated again. "You want to grab coffee sometime? Not work talk. Just coffee?" I looked at her. Really looked. Honest eyes. No games. No masks. And for the first time in months I said yes. She burned the bridge. I built a kingdom on the ashes. 6 months later, I barely thought about Ava. Not out of hatred. Not out of numbness. Just indifference. She moved to a different city, took a contract gig in a smaller firm. I heard through someone in HR that she was keeping her head down, avoiding socials, avoiding questions. Marcus? Vanished. He tried to get hired at 2 startups, but word travels fast in the industry. Reputation is currency. And he was broke. Meanwhile, I was promoted again, Director of Strategic Operations. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt deserved. Grace and I went for coffee. Then dinner. Then, quiet weekends with books and wine, no pressure, no performance. Just presence. She never asked about Ava. She didn't have to. She saw the way I carried myself, like a man who had already walked through betrayal and came out carrying the blueprint for something better. One evening I got a letter. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting. Ava. I hope someday you can look back at what we had and remember the good. I don't expect forgiveness. But I wanted to say that losing you was the moment I realized who I really was. No apology. No ownership. Just reflection. Late. Quiet. Hollow. I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty. Because that chapter was closed. The following week, I was asked to speak at a leadership seminar. Topic: Crisis, Character, and Clarity. Standing at the podium, I looked out at the room, fresh faces, hungry minds, future leaders. And I said, you don't measure someone by how they handle success. You measure them by how they handle betrayal. And if you're lucky, it won't break you. It'll introduce you to the strongest version of yourself. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't even a survivor. I was something better. I was rebuilt.